The moment my wife Becky's voice trembled over the phone, warning me that 3 motorcycles were idling in our driveway, I felt a chill run down my spine. These weren't ordinary visitors. They weren't neighbors stopping by to ask about the community bake sale, and they certainly weren't here to admire the roses I'd planted last spring. They were deliberate, methodical, and terrifyingly informed. They knew when I'd be away, when she'd be alone, even the rhythm of our daily lives, and every instinct my years in cybersecurity and military police had drilled into me screamed that we were being watched. What had begun as a seemingly mundane HOA citation about native wildflowers in our yard had metastasized into something far more dangerous, a web of intimidation, corruption, and familial manipulation that would drag our quiet suburban life into a labyrinth of crime, deception, and psychological warfare. It had started innocuously enough, with a crisp letter in Monday's mail, the kind of bureaucratic overreach that normally fades into background noise. Unauthorized landscaping modifications, it read in bold, formal type, immediate compliance required or escalating enforcement measures will be implemented. Becky, ever meticulous, held it like it was radioactive evidence, her analytical mind already decoding layers of implication hidden beneath the perfunctory letterhead of the Maple Ridge HOA. I watched her spread the documents across our dining table, a scatter of bylaws and financial statements, her eyes narrowing in concentration, the same eyes that had spent years uncovering corporate fraud and tracking the kind of money trails that powerful people preferred stayed hidden. Patricia Hendris, the HOA president, had picked the wrong opponent. Becky wasn't just another suburban homeowner, she was a detective in disguise, trained to notice inconsistencies, patterns, and financial anomalies that others dismissed. As she cross-referenced the citation with quarterly statements, her finger ran down columns of expenditures, pausing on $23,000 in security consulting fees over 6 months, vague vendor names, and payments that didn't match any documented improvements. "What kind of security consulting does a neighborhood need?" she murmured, her tone casual, but her mind racing through implications that would have stunned ordinary people. And she was right, something wasn't adding up. What had started as a minor dispute over bee-friendly flowers was evolving into a revelation about systemic corruption that reached far beyond our manicured streets, into municipal government, and into the psyche of a woman who had weaponized her own family to protect her crimes. The first HOA board meeting we attended felt less like a civic gathering and more like entering a courtroom rigged in favor of an opponent who knew every procedural trick. Patricia Hendris sat at the head table with an air of aristocratic authority, her silver hair perfectly styled, jewelry catching the fluorescent glare like a warning signal. She commanded the room with practiced poise, flanked by board members whose nervous glances betrayed who actually held power. Becky rose calmly from the back row, folders in hand, and methodically dismantled the citation. Bylaw references, environmental precedents, approvals granted to neighbors who happened to be Patricia's friends. The room shifted palpably as whispers grew among residents, recognition dawning that their own HOA violations might be equally fabricated. But the real tension surfaced when Becky asked about the finances, the $23,000 for security consulting and other irregularities, a question that sent the president's composure wobbling. "Administrative business," Patricia said, her voice forced, "is not subject to resident oversight." Becky countered with state regulations and HOA bylaws demanding transparency for expenditures over $5,000, her calm persistence revealing that this garden citation had never been about flowers. It was about silencing someone with the skills to uncover decades of hidden wrongdoing. That night, Becky pored over spreadsheets, ledgers, and HOA contracts until past midnight, the kitchen table transformed into a command center for financial investigation. Her meticulous work revealed a pattern: vague vendor names, irregular payment schedules, and a network of concealed transactions pointing to a far-reaching criminal enterprise. Meanwhile, I set up security measures at home, instinctively aware that questions about public money rarely stayed confined to legal battles. They attracted attention, sometimes dangerous attention. Sure enough, a week later, the motorcycles arrived. Their engines cut through the quiet street with the kind of mechanical growl that demanded attention, announcing arrival with almost theatrical intent. I was minutes away when Becky's text arrived. 3 men on motorcycles, unknown, in our driveway. Tactical assessment kicked in immediately. Unknown hostiles, coordinated, appearing exactly when she was most exposed. A scenario too precise to be coincidence. When I arrived, I could see them dismount with practiced precision, not amateurs but professionals, or so it seemed. The leader, Tank Morrison, exuded both menace and hesitation, his presence revealing layers of internal conflict that I would later realize were shaped by a lifetime of family manipulation. Flanked by Rico and Mouse, men bound by debts and loyalty, they approached, words chosen carefully, their tone conveying more than intimidation. It was a message. "Your wife has been asking questions about community finances," Tank said, subtly implying that curiosity could have consequences far beyond a mere HOA dispute. I stepped onto the porch, calm but ready, giving them exactly 3 minutes to leave, a precise ultimatum that confused them because they expected fear, negotiation, or hesitation. What followed was a choreography of control and restraint, where military training met desperate amateur aggression. Rico swung a fist, Mouse brandished a baton, and Tank tried to assert dominance. Every attempt was countered with calm precision, getting their momentum, neutralizing threat without permanent harm, and revealing the underlying truth. These weren't hardened criminals acting independently, they were pawns of a mother wielding familial leverage to protect a criminal enterprise. Within minutes, the psychological veil lifted, and confessions began. Tank revealed his mother's identity, Patricia Hendris, and her 3-year campaign of financial theft, bribery, and municipal corruption. He admitted to being coerced into intimidating us, using his criminal history as leverage, and explained the network of payments, offshore accounts, and kickbacks that had enriched her while endangering our community. Rico and Mouse, once instruments of intimidation, became reluctant witnesses, understanding that their actions, manipulated by family loyalty, could now help expose crimes far beyond anything they imagined. The following days blurred into an intricate investigation, Tank leading us to storage units filled with meticulously organized records, documents disguised as mundane business files, but actually cataloging theft, money laundering, and bribery. Becky's forensic accounting skills transformed raw chaos into admissible evidence. Bank statements, fake vendor invoices, email threads, and even secretly recorded meetings with city officials were documented, photographed, and catalogued with chain-of-custody precision. Each discovery revealed not only the scope of Patricia's crimes, but also the psychological mechanics of manipulation she had perfected over 2 decades. Abandonment, strategic reappearance, calculated dependency, threats disguised as support, all designed to control those around her, including her own son. As evidence mounted, the urgency became clear. She planned to flee the country within days, taking millions in stolen funds and exploiting every loophole to secure permanent escape. We crafted a plan to use Tank's proximity to Patricia to capture a recorded confession, balancing ethical considerations with tactical necessity. The night she met with him, under the guise of planning her escape, every word she spoke was recorded, her voice detailing thefts, kickbacks, and city corruption networks, unaware she was providing irrefutable evidence to federal authorities. The following morning, as she approached the airport with suitcases of stolen cash, cameras and FBI agents intercepted her. The prearranged escape became a live broadcast, her confidence evaporating as Tank stepped forward publicly, revealing years of manipulation, coercion, and criminal complicity, transforming her narrative from calculated escape to exposure. Federal raids followed, city council members arrested, assets seized, and Patricia Hendris, once untouchable, faced justice. Months later, the neighborhood healed in ways the HOA could never have enforced. Tank, Rico, and Mouse, once agents of intimidation, became advocates for community security, mentorship, and crime prevention, their past misdeeds transformed through accountability and cooperation. Becky was elected treasurer, implementing transparent financial controls, ensuring no one could again exploit the system with impunity. Our wildflowers, once a symbol of petty dispute, now bloomed as emblem of resilience and renewal, attracting bees, butterflies, and neighbors curious to learn about native plant projects. And as I watched the sunlight spill across our garden, I realized the true story wasn't about flowers, money, or motorcycles. It was about courage, integrity, and the choice to stand for truth when deception seemed insurmountable. A reminder that even in ordinary communities, extraordinary secrets can lurk just beneath the surface, waiting for the right person or family to shine a light on them.